week away. Cam Miller, friend of the program, is going to be joining us to talk about the first round and beyond in the NFL draft. But it is a feel-good Friday. It is a fancy coffee Friday. And surprisingly, in the month of April, we got a lot of football to talk about. It is a football Friday. Rip City Morning starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio. But hopefully, with all of that, it is a very happy Friday. It is RCM. I am your host, Justin Myers. Super producer Brenden is safely partitioned on the other side of the glass. Thanks for getting up early with us or staying up late, however you are rolling on this particular Friday. Yeah, we're going to talk some play-in. We're going to talk some NBA. All right. Maybe uninformed opinion. Maybe too simplistic of an opinion. Maybe Justin's a grumpy old man opinion. Also, maybe not statistically driven, but anecdotally driven. Have I prefaced this opinion enough? Jimmy Butler's not going to be playing in this game because he got hurt in the play-in game. That's one star out. Zion is not going to be playing as he hurt his hamstring in the earlier play-in game. There's another star. There's two at one particular point all-stars. I don't know if Zion was an all-star this year, but was Zion ever an all-star? I think he was. I think he was his rookie year, right? Wasn't he an all-star? Regardless, he is one of the more prominent names. So you got Jimmy Butler out with a knee sprain. You've got Zion out with a hamstring, two-time All-Star. So the two biggest names of the four teams, right? No offense to DeMar DeRozan and to Domantas Sabonis and to De'Aaron Fox, but the two biggest names in these games tonight are not going to be playing due to injury. And those injuries occurred in the postseason. Tell me again how load management works. Isn't this what load management was supposed to protect, right? Hey, you manage the minutes of your superstar so that when the postseason comes around, they're fresh and they are not what? Prone to injury. So you did all this load management for 82 games only to play in one play-in game, and boom, there's an MCL. Boom, there's a hamstring, and now we got two of the most famous guys, two of the biggest stars in the league. I know this is a grumpy old man opinion, but it's like, isn't this what load management was supposed to protect? Isn't this what's load management? The reason why I tune in on like a Thursday on a TNT game and they're like, Jimmy Butler is not going to be playing tonight. And it's like, due to load management, it's like, all right, well, that's a bummer, but at least I'll get to see him in the play. Oh, no, not going to see him in the playoffs. He sprained his MCL. Why? Because injuries can happen at any particular time. I know that there was a big story going around. I know the guys on Rip City Drive were talking about it yesterday about the play-in tournament that was supposed to bolster some of the NBA's ratings came back. No, big dull dud. Nobody was watching the play-in game. Nobody was emphasizing the play-in or the in-season tournament, I should say. Nobody was emphasizing the in-season tournament. In-season tournament's on during football. Sorry, you're not going to win. And B, it was a publicity stunt, and everybody kind of saw right through it. But I saw there was a big, long article with a lot of numbers, more numbers than I needed to see. But looking at network rating and league pass rating and overall, and does the NBA, does it have to? It's a simple problem that does not have a simple fix. You want NBA ratings to go up? You want more people to pay attention to your league? Oh, I've got an answer. Have the best players play. Simple as that. Have the best players play. Wasn't it like a month ago? Coming off of the All-Star break, the Warriors were playing the Lakers on TNT. Those are pretty big games for the NBA. And LeBron James, the game's most popular player, the game's most famous player, coming off of an all-star break, sat out with a right ankle sprain. Now, I'm not saying that injuries aren't significant, but you want to know why nobody's watching, or I shouldn't say nobody, but fewer and fewer people are watching our league? It has nothing to do with the league's politics. It has nothing to do with it's the wokeness. No, it's not. It has nothing to do with that. It is simple and easy. Why is there a dip in NBA regular season? Because the players don't play. The players don't play. I try my best to not be the back in my day guy, because there are pluses and minuses. And I have said multiple times, I loved 90s NBA basketball, but in terms of talent and ability, and even when they are playing entertainment, today's version of basketball is far more entertaining. Oh, it's nothing but a three-point contest. That's kind of awesome. Isn't it kind of fun to watch 6'8" guys shoot threes? Isn't it kind of fun to see the ball go in the basket? Yeah. I've never understood that argument from people like, oh, it's nothing but a three-point contest. What would you prefer? Sit around and wait for 19 seconds of a 24-second shot clock while a big center dribbles his big behind backwards and then kind of throws up a baby hook, and maybe he makes it, maybe he doesn't. I would far rather see a three-point contest and maybe some fast breaks, but that's...
You know the old heads, Justin. They want to see back to 85, 81 NBA basketball.
But who wants that? Again, that's not good
There
either.
are some out there. I don't want to say they don't exist.
Well, those people are wrong. Okay.
Oh, I wholeheartly agree.
Everybody's got an opinion. No, you don't. That opinion is wrong. But
you know what they say about opinions, Justin.
Well, there's a good version of that phrase, and there's a dirty version of that
the
phrase.
The clean version for radio,
The clean
please.
version, I believe, is everybody has an... noses are like opinions, that everybody has one, and they both smell.
Oh, that's a good twist. I haven't heard that one.
Yeah. You've never heard
the
of
dirty
that?
one. Yeah.
Have you heard the dirty one?
Oh, of course. Yes. Yeah. So we're not gonna get into that one here.
The opinions are
the
like
nose is good.
another thing that they stink. But the clean version, the edited version, right? The non-parental advisory version was opinions are like noses. Everybody's got one, and they both smell. That being said, anybody that wants the grinded out 92-78 version of NBA basketball, your opinion's wrong. I'm sorry. It's wrong. Actually, I'm not sorry. I take it back. I'm not apologizing.
Sorry, not sorry.
Never say never again. Sorry, not sorry. But I tried not to be like, oh, basketball in the 90s. It was like, basketball in the 90s was more entertaining for one reason and one reason only. On Saturday, when the Bulls played the Knicks, Michael Jordan played Patrick Ewing. It was a guarantee. It wasn't even a question. It wasn't even in the realm of possibility that in a Saturday NBA on NBC, when you play the John Tesh song that we play, Round Ball Rock, and you hear Marv Albert give the opening of on today on NBA on NBC, you knew that Michael Jordan was going to be playing Patrick Ewing. You knew that Magic Johnson was going to be playing against Hakeem Olajuwon when the Lakers play the Rockets in the second half of our doubleheader. You knew that Stockton and Malone were going to be playing for the Utah Jazz when they took on Clyde and Terry Porter for the Blazers. You knew it. NBA ratings in the regular season are down, not because the product is bad. I think the product is as good as ever. People with any basketball sense, if you watch the game, yeah, every once in a while, is it a little too ISO? Sure. But it's a lot of threes. It's a lot of ball movement. And I like watching 6'10" guys make threes. It's kind of fun for me. But the reason why ratings are down is incredibly simple. It is not complex at all. It is the fact that, well, there's two things. There are two things why ratings are down. A, and they're both kind of interconnected. A, I can't trust that I'm going to turn on a game and the best players are going to play. Can't trust it. Like I said, LeBron James, after the All-Star break, the break comes back and takes a night off. And this may be unfair but I do believe that a good chunk of fans in our great sports world watch the NBA and see like, oh, Anthony Davis has a headache and he's not playing tonight. It's like, excuse me? You can't play with, and I understand there's what the Blazers were doing, but like, could you imagine right knee soreness, not playing tonight, like taking a night off, right knee soreness, and then you watch the NFL, and you see these guys scratch, and it's not a fair comparison because the NFL is 17 games, but you see the NFL and these guys scratching and clawing and fighting their way to stay on the field. Meanwhile, Anthony Davis has a headache; he's not playing tonight. Those are the reasons why people aren't watching your product. And I don't know how you fix it. But here's how I fix a Friday. Oh, I get excited because we have a tradition on this particular program that at the end of every week, we celebrate. We celebrate the week that we had, and we look forward to the weekend that is. And we do that with a little fancy coffee Friday. Here we go. That is correct. It is time to treat yourself with a fancy coffee on this Friday. And you know what? Because you worked your tail off all week, whatever a fancy coffee is to you, well, we're not going to judge. We don't order shame on this particular program when it comes to Fancy Coffee Friday, because whether or not you want to go to your gas station convenience, pump it out of a HODL, throw a couple French vanillas, and maybe mix in a hazelnut or filbert, as we call them here in the great state of Oregon. You do you. If you want to go to a local coffee shop and watch a barista take 14 minutes to make your perfect pour-over coffee that you wouldn't dare sully with a drip of cream because it would impact the flavor of the ground, you do you. Because fancy coffee is whatever you want it to be. So, cheers to all of you for hanging out with us throughout the week. For giving us just a little bit or a lot of your time. We appreciate each and every one of you. You're the hardest working audience in all of radio. I know it. I can feel it in my gut. So cheers to you, Brenden. Cheers to the listening audience for hanging out with us. Happy Fancy Coffee Friday, everybody. We have got a jam-packed show. We have got some football to talk about. Mike McDonald making some waves up in Seattle. We'll talk about that next. 620 Rip City Radio. Clearly, if you've listened to the show at all, you understand that I'm an Oregon football homer. I am it probably the most nerdy thing I do is Oregon football and the ins and the outs, especially from Oregon football 12 years ago, 13 years ago. Oh, it's crazy to think. 15 years ago when Chip Kelly took over in 2009. That was 15 years ago. Man, time flies. And there was in that era of Oregon football, Oregon got very, very adamant about, hey, other teams do tradition, Oregon doesn't do tradition. We are looking forward, not backward. And it was kind of a zag when everybody else was zigging, if you know what I'm saying, right? That's everybody in college football is looking for a tradition. And if everybody is perfectly honest, always kind of jealous of the cool ones. Splitting the T at Tennessee, right? Running through it, like that's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. We talked about it, might have been yesterday, might have been the day before, but like just certain things that when everybody is on the same page in the stadium, it's always cool. And everybody's kind of looking for a tradition. And Oregon, for a good chunk of time, was adamant, we don't do tradition. Tradition can hold you back. Tradition can become a barrier. It's like, oh, we don't do. At case in point, Oregon changes their uniforms each and every game. I very much remember when Ohio State, Brenden, they changed the stripes on the sleeves of their jerseys, and everybody freaked out. We don't do that. That's not what we do. Those aren't our, because that's tradition. Change the sleeves.
Do you remember when USC barely tweaked theirs and
everybody freaked out?
Yep.
So there are some things where tradition can be can hold you back. But then every once in a while you go like, did you overdo it there? In terms of we create our own identity, we create our own tradition. We don't worry about what happened before us. We are looking at what's going forward. And I present to you Mike Macdonald, the new head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. Have you heard about Picturegate going on right now? And this is the perfect spring OTA story. It's the best, right? Of all the things in the NFL that could be going on right now, a week before, the draft, the pictures that are up at it's known as the VMAC. It's the practice facility for the Seattle Seahawks, the Virginia Mason Athletic Center. But it was a pretty big story that Pete Carroll's basketball hoop was removed from inside the auditorium because, of course, Pete Carroll, it was compete every day, right? It was a cute little thing because his name was Pete, and it was compete every single day, and it was all about competition. And before we start our meeting, we're going to have a basketball shootout because we're competing. We're always competing. Mike Macdonald came in and was like, get the basketball hoop out of here. This is a place for meetings. This is not a place for tomfoolery.
Are we saying that Michael Scott, or said like this case, like Pete Carroll was the Michael Scott, and this is
he had a little Michael Scott in him,
and Mike Macdonald is Charles coming in, being like, "This is a place of business, Justin. We got to do memos. I don't know why I can't increase productivity. I put memos on everybody's desk. I mean, you know what I mean? I think Mike Macdonald coming in with a bit of the Charles mindset,
not in the bad ways, but he had a little Michael Scott in him. Pete Carroll did, which was we're family. We're hanging out. We're shooting hoops, right? We're having fun. I'm going to bring Snoop Dogg in here.
It's true.
And it worked. He
got a Super Bowl out of it. So
he got 2 Super Bowl appearances, got a trophy, and with all of that, became, because this is going to be important in our discussion over the next couple of minutes, became, in my opinion, the greatest coach in the history of Seattle sports. Don't think it's really all that close. Not a lot of championships in Seattle sports. 0 for the Mariners. 1 for the Supersonics in 1979. Shout out Lenny Wilkins. Maybe Mike Holmgren. Maybe Don James, who has half a national championship from 1991 with the University of Washington. But if you look at the history of coaches in the Seattle sports universe, Pete Carroll's number 1. It's not particularly close. More on that in a moment. But Pete Carroll had the hoop up, and Mike McDonald came in and was like, nope, guys, we're getting down to business. You guys hired me for a reason. Get it out of here. But apparently that wasn't the only notable change. A wall that previously showed blown-up pictures of star players and famous moments from the Carroll era is now blank. This is from a friend of the program, Brady Henderson, is reporting this. This wall is in the hallway adjacent to the indoor practice facility. It showed over a dozen pictures. Richard Sherman's tip, NFC Championship game. Cam Chancellor's pick 6 versus the Carolina Panthers in the postseason. Pete Carroll, John Schneider, and Paul Allen celebrating with the Lombardi Trophy. Russell Wilson teary-eyed after the 14 NFC Championship game overtime win over the Packers. Those pictures of the glory days, because that's when they were, they're gone. Pulled down.
Out with the old, in with the new.
Boarded over. And I will say this. I understand the concept of I'm the captain now. I understand that concept. I do. Because
we all learned in that movie, that's for sure.
But he was not the captain. The Navy SEALs were the captain because bink, bink, they went down. But I understand hey, I'm coming in. You got to crack some skulls, Chickless style. We just keep doing office references. Yeah, the commish. But I understand the idea of coming in and, nope, I am the captain now. This is my team. Pete Carroll, gone. You hired me for a reason and you fired him for a reason. All the Pete Carroll stuff's got to go. But it does add a little extra pressure on you. Because if you don't win, and well, all of the players, because I believe Bobby Wagner is now out, all of the players from those glory years of the Seahawks are now gone. They're either on other teams or retired and moved on. All of them are pretty much gone. I don't know if there's any current players of the Seahawks that were on that Super Bowl roster, because I think Bobby Wagner, I believe, was the last one. But there were still a handful of players on your roster that played for Pete Carroll for the last couple of years. And I'm not saying that this is going to be a mutiny. I'm not saying that there is, because they took down some pictures and they took down some hoops. But
Justin, I don't even know if anybody in the for the sake of how the NFL goes, I don't know if there's anybody on their offensive or defensive starters that are still playing in the league.
Well, Russell Wilson is the starting quarterback with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's going to win the MVP this year.
Okay,
Brenden.
Well, that's. Can we go back to your Bo Nix takes? At least those are realistic. Marshawn Lynch, Doug Baldwin, Golden Tate, Zach Miller, Luke Wilson, Max Unger, J.R. Sweezy, James Carpenter.
God, all these names. Whew.
Right. Defense, Bruce Irvin, Chris Clemens.
I think Bruce Irvin's still in the league.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah.
He was last year.
But like you said, Bobby, KJ Wright, Sherman, Brandon Browner, Cam Chancellor, they're all retired.
Brandon Browner. How about that? Where's he in Beaver legacy lore?
That's a good one. Everyone just universally knows he was ridiculously talented, so it's like, we got him for I think like a year, maybe just 2.
I thought he was at Oregon State for 2 years.
Yeah, and
the
then,
2 years declared for the draft, did not get drafted.
Yeah,
and
then,
they're like, well,
yeah,
then he became one of the Legion of Boom.
Yeah, so I don't know if we claimed him or not, but it was like, hey, he was on the wall of Beaver because he was an All-American as a sophomore. Yeah. You're like, what? Like, that doesn't happen in Oregon State very often.
But then went on the Legion of Boom, won a Super Bowl, and all that. But, so I understand the I'm the captain now, but this seems very college-like to me. This is the tough situation, because when I first heard this, I go, what a stupid thing to do. It's the practice facility, right? You walk, every organization that has any bit of success, you walk by, like the New York Jets have had no success in recent memories. But I'll bet you walk by a picture of Joe Namath holding the trophy. Could you imagine if Robert Saleh came in and was like, we are building our own identity. Get the Namath stuff out. Now, Not saying that Russell Wilson is Joe Namath, but each won a Super Bowl. But you better win. You better win when you do that, because now that this story is out, I know that at the end it got a little bit of, we love Pete Carroll, but I think it's time for a change. But the fan base, I believe, still loves Pete Carroll, to the point where there was an honest choice that the organization had to make 2 years ago, which was, do we fire Pete Carroll to save Russell Wilson, or do we move on from Russell Wilson to save Pete Carroll? And I do believe that the fan base had an awful lot of say in that matter, and the fan base is like, we stand by Pete. That is, in Pete we trust. I heard that so many times when I was up in Seattle. Now, obviously, that was a long time ago, but
now, just real quick, Justin, for perspective, how fascinating is it that, like, we've said time and time again, our local teams owned by the same ownership,
yes.
But like Seattle, they swear by it, and are like, this, they, like you said, believe not just in Pete, but like believe in the ownership group of the Seahawks to consistently put together a consistent winner, because they have time and time again.
You know how you win trust? You hang banners.
Yep.
You hang banners and you polish trophies, and that's how a fan base will swear by you. But going back to Oregon football, because I remember, and I think this is kind of an older fan thing. I remember when Chip Kelly came in 2009, and all of a sudden the Mo Center, which was the indoor practice facility, the Michovsky Center, looked a little bit different. Remember Oregon football's innovation back in the day, pre-internet, was we put up billboards everywhere. Not afraid to do it. Obviously, the Joey Harrington billboard in Times Square, but Oregon football put billboards in L.A., in Phoenix, and in Seattle. And it was like, what a bold move. They're putting Oregon football billboards up in Seattle in the shadow of Husky Stadium. What are they doing? And so it kind of became a thing. And when the billboards were replaced, the old ones were put in the Michovsky Center. They were up. And it was kind of an ode to 1999 and 2000. And look at these billboards. And then I remember 2009 doing a pregame show. I'm looking around going, where'd all those billboards go? And Chip Kelly he wiped them clean. And it was a clear move. It was a clear move of, I'm the captain now. And all the references to the Bellotti era, at least in the practice facility, was taken down. Now, it wasn't a big deal publicly because it was a different time in 2009. But it's a move that other coaches have done. Now, Chip Kelly would go on to win the Pac-10 that year and would play in the Rose Bowl. And at that point, Oregon fans say, you can do whatever you want. What? We all have to say win the day? Got it. And then you fast forward to 2013 with regard to Oregon football. And Mark Helfrich took over. And I remember, I've said this multiple times, one of the big mistakes that Mark Helfrich made was not establishing himself as the captain now. He was looked at. I'm going to keep saying it because it's...
Now, the more you say it, man, the more I keep wanting to laugh.
But it's true, though. Yeah. You know what I mean? You do have to come in and be like, this is my team. But there's a delicate balance. You can't strip away everything. Like, I don't know how much this mural means to, or these pictures mean to Seahawk fans, but it's clearly a shot at that doesn't matter anymore. We do things this way. If you win, you're going to look like a genius. If you lose, if you're mediocre, stuff like this can bite. And it seems like an unnecessary thing to do. I don't know if it matters at the NFL level. College level, I get it. You're dealing with kids. Mike Bellotti's gone. I'm the head coach now. My team. I know you're used to me being your assistant. Nope, I'm in charge now. And then Helfrich took over, and it kept with the win the day thing because also that's a bit of a misnomer. Because I know a lot of people say, well, Helfrich should have just gotten rid of win the day. I believe I even said that at one point. Win the day started in 2007 with Mike Bellotti as the head coach on billboards. interestingly enough. And then Chip Kelly took over and it kind of created a life of its own. And at that point, it would have been silly. It would have been silly for Mark Helfrich to be like, we're getting rid of Win the Day. It's like, everybody loves this. It's a logo on our uniforms. No. But there could have been something that I think he should have done to establish himself. Like, no, I'm the captain now. I'm in charge. And I don't know if he ever really quite did that. This is clearly an attempt by this from Mike Macdonald. But as I mentioned, these guys are pros. And this seems like college football stuff. And it seems like an unnecessary risk to take. When A, you don't really have a franchise quarterback. B, you're a first-year head coach. You look at all those the Belichick disciples. We talk about this all the time, right? All the Belichick disciples that didn't pan out as head coaches. The list goes on and on and on, right? Whether it's Romeo Crennel, whether it's Matt Patricia, whether it's Josh McDaniels twice. Like the list, Mike Vrabel ultimately got fired, even though he was probably the best of all of them. Joe Judge. The list goes on and on and on, right? Of all the Belichick disciples that didn't make it. Why didn't they make it? Two reasons. A, from what I have been told, I mean, I've read, nobody tells me, not like I have inside sources, but what I've read was that a lot of those guys came in and they tried to do the Bill Belichick thing. And they're like, and NFL players are like, you ain't Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick's got 2, 3, 4, 5 rings. You're an assistant coach. So that was one. And here's the other problem is they came in and tried to do the Bill Belichick thing, and they didn't have Tom Brady. They didn't have Tom Brady on their team. And it ultimately failed when you act that way without Tom Brady and without some Super Bowl rings in your back pocket as a head coach. I think players are going to resent you. So Mike Macdonald comes in here, and I know he's not a Belichick disciple, but he's a John Harbaugh disciple. And this feels very Harbaugh-ish, right? We're getting rid of all the old stuff. Okay, but you don't have Lamar Jackson on this team. You don't have a defense that you had in Baltimore. I've talked about my Hard Knocks theory a lot on the radio. Go back, watch every season of Hard Knocks. It's on Max. Go back and watch every season of Hard Knocks. They're all kind of the same. From the Houston Texans to the Cleveland Browns to the New York Jets, they're all kind of the same. Every coach runs their team meetings the same. All training camps are kind of formatted the same. They all have the same motivational stuff up in the locker room, right? Do your job. Play like a Jet today. Together, everyone accomplishes more. You know, all those T-shirts we had in high school football, right? Every one of them are all the same. They're all the same meetings. It's the same. They do the same rookie showcase. They're all the same. Every training camp, every locker room, they're all the same. So how do certain teams differentiate one from the other? Really good quarterbacks and talented players. That's the difference. So to me, this seems like a cosmetic, unnecessary thing that's not going to make a lick of difference until you get somebody at quarterback that's going to be able to play like Tom Brady, like Lamar Jackson, like Patrick Mahomes. John Harbaugh can come in and do whatever he wants. Why? Because he's got Lamar Jackson on his team. Andy Reid can come in and make all the changes he wants. You want to know why? He's got Patrick Mahomes. You got Geno Smith. Sure you want to rip down the pictures? Seems like an unnecessary risk. All right. We're going to wrap up hour number 1. We got Round Ball Rock. We got 2 spots left in the NBA playoffs. We'll talk about that next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, we have 2 NBA basketball games tonight that will determine the 8th seed. Miami Heat will be without Jimmy Butler as they face the Chicago Bulls. We saw this movie last year. Congratulations to the winner. You'll get the Boston Celtics. And different story maybe in the West. Even though the Pelicans are going to be without Zion, they're going to be taking on the Sacramento Kings. Sacramento Kings and the Pelicans play for the right to face Oklahoma City, which I think Oklahoma City is really good. I believe Shai Gilgeous-Alexander should win the MVP. It's kind of a selfish reason. Also, he's really, really good. But I think if Sacramento gets the win tonight, I think they can push Oklahoma City. I think, like, they get some hot shooting. Anything can happen. But there's other news and notes going on in and around the NBA. Let's fire up some Tesh. All right. Earlier in the show, I talked about the NBA ratings that are going not in the right direction. They are going in the wrong direction. And it's a very simple problem with a very complex fix. And that is the fact that during the regular season, the best players don't play. And that there is a culture in the NBA right now. And again, I'm not saying that it is wrong. I am saying that it is not good for business. Right? Those are two very separate things. When you start saying, hey, there might be something that is correct, but it doesn't mean it is good for business. And that is the culture in the NBA where if you are not feeling 100%, you don't play. I present to you Kawhi Leonard. LA Clippers are going to be facing off against the Dallas Mavericks. Game 1 has Kawhi Leonard listed as questionable in the postseason with knee inflammation. Now, again, I have not had a torn ACL. That's me knocking on wood. I've not had a torn ACL, and I've been very lucky in my life to not have major surgery. And I understand that these athletes have to think about the long term and everything else. But so I'm not saying that it is wrong. I'm saying it's not good for business that you're about ready to tip off your first round and you have got a matchup between the Mavericks and the Clippers that is full of star power. Kawhi Leonard might not play? Well, clearly it must be a knee inflammation? You want to know why people get turned off by the league? This is what turns off people in the league. And if it was a single isolated incident, that would be one thing. But it is a ongoing problem in the NBA, right? Right knee soreness, tendonitis, you name it. And I mentioned Anthony Davis, he's got a headache. He's not playing. Those are the reasons why. But Kawhi Leonard listed as questionable for the Game 1 matchup with the Dallas Mavericks. Other news, in their exit interviews, Steve Kerr says there is a lot of value in keeping the Golden State Warriors' big three together. I thought after they lost to Sacramento, the way that they lost to Sacramento, the fact that they were a 10 seed in the West this year, I was like, I think we may have seen the last of the Warriors dynasty. Well, Steve Kerr doesn't believe that that is the case. Now, I don't know. Is he just saying all the right things? Because I don't know if Steve Kerr can really come out and be like, hey, Clay, thanks for the memories. Thanks for helping us win multiple championships, but you ain't it anymore. We're going to need to move on. Can't really say that publicly. Probably can't really say we'd like to move on from Draymond, but 2 years ago we made a mistake and paid him too much money. So we can't really because of he's not really valuable on the trade market because, well, he cannot be trusted to not choke out Rudy Gobert or punch Yusuf Nurkic in the middle of games. Brenden, you buying what Steve Kerr's trying to sell here? I'm not buying it. It's over, baby. It's done. It's done like dinner.
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as you still have that'd be like saying a couple years ago when the Lakers had LeBron James and Russell Westbrook, it's over. Like,
well,
you can still.
I believe the Warriors can win with Steph Curry. I don't believe the Warriors are ever going to win with those three.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree.
That's what I'm talking about.
But like, I look at like Steph Curry's like LeBron. You can retool around LeBron and find dudes to like the Warriors aren't gonna be like, hey, Steph, next couple years we're gonna tank. Like that, you know what I mean? Like that would never happen. So to your point, maybe Clay's the one to go. Maybe it's Dre. I don't know. But I agree with you. I think one of the three will probably be gone.
Well, here's the problem with Draymond Green, right? $77 million and 3 years left on his contract. Anybody gonna pop $77 million?
So not as bad as you would have to pay for Clay. I bet you Clay's going to ask for $30 million a year.
Well, he can ask all he wants.
Some team,
but he's going out on the open market because he's a free agent. Is he a restricted free agent? I think
unrestricted.
Unrestricted free agent.
And some team looking at like
somebody's going to overpay for him.
Like, what if the Spurs are like, "Yep, we want Klay Thompson with Wembanyama as a sniper out there on the edge, and give him $30 million a year."
What happened this year? I wish I could say I watched the Warriors closely enough. What happened?
Lack of depth.
Which is with Klay Thompson. Like, did his leg like?
Clay's getting a little older.
But he was coming off the bench to the point, and then like he didn't even score in the final game. And I know the clunkers happen. I'm not saying it's one game, but it feels like the last 2-3 months of the season, he just has been.
So the other thing that nobody talks about because he's not the star, Andrew Wiggins has come back to the player that was terrible. Not terrible, but just like he had that year. They traded him. It's like, new Warriors. And he was like showing shades of being number one pick the year they won the championship. Then he's kind of reverted back to that player in Minnesota who's just kind of been another guy.
But I'm just wondering what specifically happened with Klay. Is it just old? Is just father time? And
I think so.
And also the other thing is, look, they do a lot of unbelievable things in the operating room, but that's a surgically repaired Achilles and a surgically repaired knee, and you were able to kind of gut it out through that one season back in 22 and win a championship, but.
I mean, are we also like?
I just think you put that many miles on those legs that are also surgically repaired. I just want I don't know if he's going to get. Somebody's going to pay. You're right. Some team out there is going to see like, hey, I think we still can get. What does Brad Pitt say? We get one more. You want to stay in the show, and I want it one more year.
Yep.
That's what I think somebody's going to be able to do.
Yeah, and last point on that, Justin, to your point, lowest averages since the 13-14 season.
That's what I'm saying. He's like in a contract year. Which means this is not an issue of effort. This is not an issue of disgruntledness. No. Because nobody in their right mind, as disgruntled as they ever could be, does this in a contract year. So it's just like, this is father time.
It's a tough spot to be in.
It's father time. It's like watching Tiger Woods play this Sunday at the Masters. Just the shot looks the same, but that ain't Klay out there. All right, we have got some more NFL draft talk coming up. Cam Miller's going to be joining us in hour number 3. We got to make or miss. We are locked and loaded. Hour 2 coming up next. 620 Rip City Radio. It is 7 a.m. on a Friday morning. Justin Myers with you. NBA play-in tournament continues tonight. The 8th seed up for grabs in both the Eastern and Western Conference. The Bulls will face the Miami Heat, but they will be without Jimmy Butler, not only for the game tonight, but if the Miami Heat pull off the victory against the Bulls, Jimmy Butler likely out a couple of weeks, will not be available for the first-round series against the Celtics, but they still have to beat the Bulls. Could DeMar DeRozan turn back the clock for one night and put the Bulls into the postseason? Pelicans will be hosting the Sacramento Kings. Pelicans will be without Zion Williamson. That for a chance to meet up against Oklahoma City. NFL draft is less than a week away. First round coming up on Thursday. Cam Miller, friend of the program, NFL draft analyst, going to be joining us in hour number 3. But hour number 2 with Make or Miss, with Hot Take Friday. A lot of other stuff. It starts right now at 620 Rip City Radio. Hey, welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. Hopefully you are having a fantastic Friday. It is going to be a beautiful day, a beautiful weekend in the Portland metro area. I got a big weekend ahead. I'm pumped. I'm pumped for the weekend. Got a concert to go to on Saturday. Got to get some yard work done. Not that anybody cares, but got to rebuild. Got to finish up my retaining wall, Brenden. Finish up the retaining wall. I tore it down without really a plan. And I finally have got that bad boy wrestled in. But then, yeah, got a concert on Saturday night. We have been running a promo on our station. I have talked to you about this. I don't listen to the music that the kids listen to, other than new Taylor Swift, which I have been listening to during the breaks, and I'm thoroughly enjoying. By the way, can I tell you how much I hate the internet real quick? I don't know if there's a love-hate relationship I have in my life more than the internet. Maybe fast food. I love fast food, but I also hate fast food. I love the way fast food tastes. I love the way fast food smells. I love when you get a McDonald's bag and it just, that first whiff of fries hits you, but I hate the way it makes my waistline. Other than that, I think maybe the biggest love-hate relationship I have in the world is with the internet. You know, everybody could just listen to Taylor's album and then just enjoy it or not like it and then just shut up about it and move on about their Friday. That's how I plan to do it. I've listened to it. I'm enjoying it. I'm not going to spend any more time on it here on the show to talk about it. But, Brenden, the amount of, this is Taylor's worst album ever, this is trash, her relationship with Travis Kelce is ruining her music career. I've seen those on the internet. To then, like Rolling Stone, look, the thing dropped 7 hours ago. And Rolling Stone has labeled it an instant, by the way, 7 hours ago, 31 songs. Rolling Stone, instant classic. Already one of the greatest albums of all time. It's like, all right, both the people who say it's trash and let's just pump the brakes a little bit. And I know we're in the content game, but the internet really bothers me sometimes. But we are running a promo on our station because I don't listen to the music the kids listen to. Brenden is one of the kids. You go to the Future concert? You going to Future and Metro Boomin? You going to try to hit that up a little bit? I've looked at the schedule, if you would like to know. I know who Oregon State plays that day.
Pretty sure it's a football Saturday.
It is a football Saturday, but Oregon State is on the road at San Diego.
Oh, I'm going to be there. So yeah,
You're going to San Diego?
Oh, yeah. San Diego in September? Yeah, that's done.
I did not know you were going to be going on a road trip.
There's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot of road series this year. We're going to Nevada. We're going to go to San Diego.
We're going to Nevada. That's it. You old enough to remember Howard Dean?
No.
Not a frame of reference at all?
Oh, unfortunately
when
not.
When I say Howard Dean, and we're going to go to Washington. We're going to go to Oregon.
No,
we're going to go to
I feel
Nevada.
bad, but no. What was it from?
So Howard Dean was a presidential candidate.
Yeah, definitely have no idea. I would have said
Presidential
coach.
candidate, I want to say 2004. So, yeah, you were 8 years old. In 2004, Howard Dean was he was going to be the guy that was going to take down George W. Bush, right? Because A lot of people had a lot of opinions about old W. And at that time, a lot of people thought, worst president we've ever had. Hold my beer. On both sides. Not like either side has put their best foot forward in the last couple of tries. But neither here nor there, because we don't do politics on this show, except for historical context. And Howard Dean, he was hot in the streets in the summer, right? And he was a fiery guy. And you know how like the calendar works for presidential campaigns? You spend the summer before the primaries. If you are not the incumbent, you basically go to Iowa and New Hampshire and hang out there in the summer at the state fairs and the county fairs up until the Iowa caucus comes at the January when January comes around. So Howard Dean has a hot summer. And then all of a sudden, you know, like we do, his polls start to fade a little bit. And, you know, he's kind of coming back to the pack a little bit and kind of getting a little bit desperate. And the campaign has lost some steam. And he takes third place in the Iowa caucus, which a lot of people say there's 3 spots out of Iowa. But third place was kind of a disappointment. And so he's got all these campaign workers and all these supporters, and he goes on this unhinged rant about how we're coming out of Iowa, and we're going to New Hampshire, and we're going to go to Michigan, and we're going to stop to get to the White House. And he goes, ah! And it's this weird viral moment that he could never get over, and his campaign was done. The moment he threw that, nothing, huh?
No,
it's a very big deal in a lot of people's lives.
No frame of reference for it. Like you've had, but then again, like.
But you were 8, so you were 8 years old.
I mean, you had to tell me the whole origin of like freedom fries, and that was around the same time. So it's like, you know,
dude, freedom fries.
Like I said, I do not remember the famous election of 2000. The first election I remember is Bush v. Kerry in 2004. So that, and I remember
that was that election, but it was the primary season.
Yeah, I just remember the bumper stickers. That's all. That's all I remember is bumper stickers. At 8 years old, it's like, oh yeah, that person's for Kerry, but you know that person's for Bush, and you know, figuring out like, oh, your family's for this, but your best friend at school, they're for the. That was like the first time, like, oh, people have different political.
Like I don't.
But
I kind of want to dive into 2004 was kind of the first time too where you let people know like which side you were on.
It's true.
That was really the first time
you
because
started telling people what your political beliefs were.
Before 9/11, like nobody really cared.
True.
And then after 9/11 happened, and everybody had to tell. End of the internet came into our lives and all that.
But yeah, to your point, Oregon State this year, you know, just the schedule has some unique road games they never have. So like San Diego's on there. Plan to go down to Reno in October. They play Air Force in November.
Are you going to go to Colorado Springs?
I think so. I'd like to.
That would be a one I would like to go to.
Yeah.
Like, I think watching a Service Academy game is kind of
Sure.
Obviously, Army Navy is as a college football guy, is a bucket list item. Had it planned, pandemic took it out of my life.
Not planning on going to Berkeley. I've been to Berkeley. It's worth going, but I've been once. And then
it's terrible.
Well, the press
Berkeley
box,
is the worst.
Press box really nice.
Is the press box nice?
Because they redid it.
Like, that stadium is just
press box real nice, good amenities.
How do the kids say it? Meh. That's how I feel about like Strawberry Canyon, I believe is what it is called, and Cheapskate Hill,
Tightwad Hill.
Tightwad Hill.
Yep, where they fire the cannon off of.
But it feels very meh.
It's a big stadium that does not fill.
So they're playing Cal as a non-conference.
Yes, and I really wanted to go to Boise, but then I'm like, oh, November 30th, 2 days after Thanksgiving in Boise. Probably going to be very cold, maybe some snow, so probably going to pass on Boise this year.
It'd be tough, because you could drive it. It'd be a tough road. That's a lot of mountains to drive over.
I was thinking it was going to be September, and I'm like, oh, my buddy and I will go to Boise. Yeah, no, a little tougher to take the Civic to Boise, Idaho in November, Justin, if you catch my drift.
You want to borrow the truck? You want to borrow?
I'm going to owe you a big gas bill at the end of that.
Yeah, it's good.
But yeah, hopefully we'll travel this
You
year.
go to Corvallis this weekend? Spring showcase,
Saturday,
spring
yeah,
game.
I'll be
Have you
there on
heard anything new? Nobody's transferred in the last week, right?
I know, it's been very nice.
Okay, that's
Calm,
good.
I'm better than I was last Friday when I was like, Justin, I don't want to hear about the Beavers, talk about the Beavers. So yeah.
Because it's not the same in Colorado. Colorado has a big event, their spring game. They're having a fashion show at their spring game. They're having a Lil Wayne concert. I mean, it's not quite a Matt Kearney concert, but I mean, they got Lil Wayne. I guess that's okay. But is Colorado going to have enough players in the spring game? They probably will, but they 11 spring transfers.
I mean,
out.
Weezy might just go out there, Justin, and play. I mean, Lil Wayne's
This is
probably
what I
got some
love-
game.
I will say, respect the game for Deion Sanders of the everything is fine, right? Pay no attention. Like the boat, like he is, as they say, reshuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic right now. I don't know if Colorado's exactly the Titanic, but it feels like he's reshuffling the deck chairs. And it's like, hey, Deion, you had 11 players leave in the spring transfer portal. You worried? I'm not worried. I'm prime. Like, that's his answer to everything. He's like, why would I worry? And then I joke around because as fans in the transfer portal era, every player that leaves stunk, wasn't living up to it. And every player that comes in is a huge get. Like, this is the way we operate as fans. But Deion Sanders is doing that as a head coach. He basically came out and said, we didn't lose any starting caliber players except for one 5-star guy who flipped from Miami to Colorado. He's gone, defensive back.
Not to mention, Colorado has 2 offensive linemen and a running back who started all 12 games for them last year, who are now with Oregon State. So are they just terrible too?
Their offensive linemen were not good last year. But shocked that some offensive linemen left Colorado when your kid got sacked because he holds on to the football too long, and you go out after the game and say, yeah, we need to get new offensive linemen.
Then you fire your offensive coordinator in like week, 8, 9, and promote, who was that NFL coordinator? Pat Shurmur to your offensive coordinator.
But don't worry. Don't worry. They got Warren Sapp as an assistant coach. That's going to work.
Which I did see random because of that. Arizona State.
Yeah, I want to talk about that on the other side.
Got
I want to talk about that on the other side. And we also got some Hot Take Friday stuff. But I've got an idea with the transfer portal, plus a make or miss coming up. But before we get to all of that, I do want to tell you about another 5-star prospect. Not even a prospect, 5-star bona fide superstar. That's DeBella. Speaking of 5 stars, it's the only amount that they let you rate up on Google. It's the highest rating you can get. You know how many they got? Over 15,000 5-star reviews for their excellent work. That's right. They're Oregon's experts on roofing, siding, windows, and bath renovations. They're a proud supporter of Operation Homefront. And with springtime and upcoming expenses, and maybe you had to write a pretty big check to the federal government just last week, 4 days ago. You want to try to save some money? Well, how about potentially paying for a brand new roof with savings and federal or state incentives? Go with solar. DeBella's got all the details about updating your roof with solar shingles. Estimates are free, convenient, scheduled on a time that works for you. And DeBella plays with the big boys. Better Homes and Garden, HGTV, accolades from Angie's List, Home Advisor, and now is the perfect time to connect with DeBella because, well, they've got a financing opportunity of no payments until 2025 on approved credit. So contact DeBella today for a free, no-obligation appointment. They are Oregon's experts on roofing, windows, siding, and bath projects, and a proud supporter of Operation Homefront. It is DeBella. All right, coming up in an hour from now, we're going to talk to Cam Mellor. Obviously, a lot of stuff with the NFL draft that is less than a week away. Plus, we'll probably sneak in some college football stuff because Cam Mellor's from the College Football Network, but he is the deputy editor of NFL Scouting for Pro Football Network. So we're going to talk to Cam about the draft, get his thoughts on some college football stuff because I think probably the biggest news this week, Jaden Rashada, quarterback at Arizona State, kind of Kenny Dillingham's first big hit. That he's gone. He's out. He has left Arizona State and he's going to Georgia. Now, normally I would be like, all right, that kind of makes sense. Like, there are right now, I would say 10 destination places. If you transfer to, and I don't even think Oregon's one of them. They might ultimately be one of them, but I would imagine if you transfer to USC, to Texas, to Michigan, to Ohio State, to Georgia, to Alabama, maybe it's just 6. It probably would have been Clemson. I'll maybe throw in Clemson, and then I'll throw in Oregon because I'm a homer. But there's a handful of places, right, where if you leave and you go like, they're going to Georgia or going to Ohio State, you're like, all right, I get it. It makes sense. Those places are NFL factories. But Rashada leaves, goes from Arizona State to Georgia. Brenden, last time I checked, and it was this morning because I had you look it up, Georgia's got a quarterback. Is this going to be the new model moving forward if you can afford it? Because we all know Matt Rule said it at a Nebraska press conference. He was like, quarterback's going to cost you $2 million. Like, he came out and said the number, which I don't know if that's the number across the board, but that figure's about right. If you want to play top tier, and I'm sure they shelled out $2 million for who was the quarterback that they got at Nebraska? Raiola, something like that. He was the number one quarterback in the country. I think it was like Raiola. I may have that completely wrong.
I don't know who he is.
What's his name, though?
Dylan Raiola.
I had it right. It was Raiola. But he was going to Georgia and then flipped, went to Nebraska. I think his dad played at Nebraska, and there was some people claiming shenanigans that Kirk Herbstreit was pushing him towards Nebraska. And Kirk Herbstreit was like, Dad called me, who I know, ask a question. I gave him my opinions. But Matt Rule came out and said, yes, it costs $2 million for a quarterback. If you've got the cash, if you've got the money, which clearly Oregon does, Georgia does, Michigan does, Ohio State does, is like buying the backup quarterback going to be like the new thing now? Because Oregon kind of did that with Dante Moore, right? They get in Dylan Gabriel. He's going to play for a year. Everybody knows he's going to play for a year. And if you can't afford it, why not pay for a backup? And I guess it's going to be interesting to see if it actually works, because if you're a guy like Rashada, you're going to be a starting quarterback at Arizona State. I don't know how much the NIL stuff is worth, but like you're going to go be a backup at Georgia. I'm curious the thought process there. Is you're going to be Dante Moore, I kind of get because Chip Kelly's gone.
As somebody who,
and it sounded like there was no, like him and Chip Kelly were never really on the same page anyways.
Yeah, it must be a money thing because Rashada's a West Coast guy. That's why it was so surprising that he took that fake NIL deal to Florida. And
that's right. He's the fake NIL guy, the $13 million.
And B, Justin says this
because didn't he famously say, like, I'm going to Arizona State, I'm not taking any NIL? Well, that his tune has changed.
Well, so does a lot of players, I've learned. But, you know.
Oh, you mean players that say, like, never leaving and they care only about loyalty?
Something like that.
Got it.
But, yeah, I mean, ultimately, you know, Justin said, well, you know, not maybe everybody feels like you do, but, Justin, I choose to think that I'm still pretty close to 18 to 22-year-old kids and what they like. Take an awful lot to draw me out of Tempe, Arizona.
Yeah, but I think football-wise, because remember, I talk about football culture all the time.
But it's still
and I
like
would imagine,
lifestyle,
but
no?
if you were a football player, right, the culture at Georgia versus the culture at Arizona State, which Dillingham's trying to change, but good luck because of all the other stuff that you talked about. Like Arizona State is not a serious football school, and the reason why is because everything else at Arizona State's awesome. We're going to
We
game.
looked at it last week.
We're gonna stand in line to go to game. No.
We looked at it last week, folks. There is not a more attended school in the United States of America. Period. Like, that's where everybody goes.
But it has no football culture. And I would imagine if you were a football player and you're like, I could get paid and get in the SEC, where
All right,
he
let me ask
clearly
you
wanted
this.
to go because he was committed to Florida. I don't know.
Does it have a higher football culture than this is fun. All right. Does it have a higher football culture than Oregon State or Washington State?
Arizona State?
Yeah.
No.
And yet
it does not.
those two teams were left, and that
Yes.
team was invited to the Big 12.
Yeah, that's Phoenix Metro.
Go figure, right?
Which
So-
it's not all geography. Everybody thinks it's all geography. It's not all geography, but I think the other part of it was Arizona State got lumped in as a package deal with the Four Corner schools.
Yeah.
Which was, and unfortunately, with the whole Big Ten thing, is that Oregon doesn't get to the Big Ten without Washington. Washington doesn't get to the Big Ten without Oregon. You know what I mean? Like, they were a package deal. And there's a lot of reasons why, but yeah, that's one of the big ones. But yeah, tell me if you think this would work. And then we're going to get to make or miss. The NCAA is looking for something to do right now. Right now, with football, Brenden, the NCAA does not have any strength. They have no leverage. They are, as they call it in business, they're an empty suit. They're technically in charge, but nobody listens to them. They have no authority. They say it on Bar Rescue. You're not a supervisor. You're a stupidvisor. That's what John Taffer says. Taffer's getting lazy, by the way. He's not even going to the bars now. He's sending the experts. I don't like it. Topic for a different time. So the NCAA needs something to do, right? They need something to oversee. They need something to regulate. We know that you cannot limit transfers. That's been decided by the courts. NIL, that's been decided by the courts. But it is clear that the transfer portal window, which, correct me if I'm wrong, the reason that the portal even exists is that you are not to be allowed to be contacted by anyone else affiliated with another school until you are officially in the portal. That's why the portal exists. The NCAA needs to start enforcing the portal. Because you take a couple of teams that are tampering and maybe crack some skulls on some big name schools who are, I think that might help a little bit with the shenanigans that's going on in the transfer portal. Because, Brenden, I don't believe for a second that a player the caliber of Jaden Rashada leaves and goes to Georgia on a whim, put the H there, on a whim, without previously being contacted by the University of Georgia or somebody affiliated with it. There's something for the NCAA to do. They can't enforce NIL because NIL is unenforceable. You can't enforce the amount of transfers because you got busted up by the courts. How about we start enforcing transfer portal tampering? I think that would be a good way to maybe calm the waters a little bit in this perfect storm that we see in college football. That's my TED Talk. The TED Talk's still a thing? You still doing TED Talks?
I haven't been in college in a while.
That was all the rage for a while. I wanted to do a TED Talk. Didn't really have a good topic that was maybe sought after, but I always wanted to do a TED Talk. I wanted one of those microphones. Right now, though, you know what I want? I want to make or miss. Real quick, Jeff on Twitter says that Rashada was losing his starting position, that he might have been benched. So, Sam Levitt Maybe that's why Kenny Dillingham was so polite and he was on the way out the door. Because ASU found a better guy?
Sam Levitt, the guy that the local kid, I believe, actually, who he was I believe, let me confirm that. Yeah, from West Lynn. He was the guy who was at Michigan State, and then when old Johnny the Snake got over there,
He left.
Yeah, he's like, hey, he didn't recruit me when I was
That's
coming
right.
out of
I was
West
up at West Lynn, and he
so
was.
I'm leaving you.
That's
Goodbye,
right, I remember.
Jonathan. So
By
it's
the way,
okay because Jonathan then's like, okay, fine, I'll bring in Aiden Childs and be fine and dandy, but
By the way, thank you to Jeff on Twitter because there's so much movement in college football. I love the sport. I can't make heads or tails who's
Well, I mean,
where,
when-
but that was.
At the end of the day, Justin, it's bandwidth. It's like how you told me, like that number one recruit. He wasn't on Oregon State's radar, so I don't know who
I don't
he
know
is.
who he is.
Right?
I don't
So
know
it's
Raiola
bandwidth.
is.
It's absolute bandwidth, man. What you can and can't put on your plate on a given day, and there's too much college football to try to track down just in one day. But nevertheless,
Also, can I do real quick, grumpy old man, like 20-second grumpy old man's like, oh, new guy's coming in. I might lose my job. Don't want to compete. I'll just leave. Got it. That's quarterback you want on your team?
well, again, this
That's
is
the
the
guy
guy.
you want on your team.
This is the guy who ran away from Florida the first second things got tough, right?
I also got promised $13 million and got nothing.
Billy Napier's program is a disaster.
man.
But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, some fool out there is like, come to Florida, we'll pay you $13 million. Are we going to pay him? No. But once he gets here, he can't really. Yeah, turns out he can, and he can leave.
yeah, let's go ahead and open up Make or Miss today. Easy to throw shade, but Robert Kraft would have 0 rings without Bill Belichick.
Ooh, that's a good question. Does he have? He's got 6. You don't think Tom? Well,
We don't know if they get Tom.
you're right.
Yeah,
That's a make. It is a
That's what I
100.
said.
It's a 100%.
So they
It's a
could-
100% make.
It's probably Drew Bledsoe. Maybe they get one.
They
maybe
might get one.
Maybe they get one.
But
Not like the dynasty, I don't think.
it's a domino effect of things, though, right? Which is my favorite thing, or as we call it, the butterfly effect. Has there ever been a non-significant movie that still we talk about? Like, the butterfly effect was, I believe, an Ashton Kutcher movie. I never watched it. But I know the concept of a butterfly flaps its wings, causes some pollen, some guy sneezes, and all down the road, and it kind of changes the world.
I don't remember it from that. I remember it from Ian Malcolm with the cup in Jurassic Park talking about
Chaos theory.
Yes, I remember.
He is a
isn't that
chaotician.
kind of the same thing, right? The butterfly effect, chaos. Like I thought I remember. Is that the same thing?
It's all
Ish.
kind of the same
I just
thing.
remember him being like, "Yeah, look, that whole kind of thing."
Because there's a movie called The Butterfly Effect.
I don't think I've seen it.
No, I didn't see it either. It's a Kutcher movie. I know that. I never saw it. But we talk about the butterfly effect all the time. And then the other one, did you ever watch The Bucket List?
Yes,
Because that was a movie. We always talk about I
Freeman
said
and
it.
Jack Nicholson, man.
I said it earlier. I said that's a bucket list item. It comes from a movie. Like, talk about like the title of a movie being more popular than the movie.
It wasn't like a world-beating movie. It was solid, but not like a oh my gosh kind of a thing.
It was a fun movie. Got weird at the end, as it would because it's a movie about death. Anyways, all right. So
But I'll try
the
to
domino
think.
effect, the butterfly effect, whatever effect, the chaos theory, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, without Bill Belichick, because Bill Belichick, for all of his surliness, to his credit, and first off, can I just say on the record, I love Drew Bledsoe. I've interviewed Drew Bledsoe. He was very good. I very much a fan of his wine. Bledsoe winery member, me. Well, my wife is.
So your bias is clearly out.
So I love Drew Bledsoe. That being said, the guts of Bill Belichick to go, Tom's the guy. Sorry. Like, because I went back and I watched the Dynasty, and you think like, oh, Bledsoe got hurt, Brady took over, and it was puppy dogs and rainbows, and it was not.
If I remember correctly, Bledsoe was ready for the AFC Championship game, and
So he was
believe
ready
Bill's-
well before that.
okay, and
So,
Bill said we're
first
going to go
off-
with Tom.
Drew Bledsoe almost dies.
He does.
He almost dies.
Nasty hit. Look it up.
He has internal bleeding. They fix it. He comes back. He's healthy. Tom Brady is playing okay. Drew Bledsoe's first game back, I believe it was against the Rams. And, like, Brady threw 3 picks, and they looked terrible. So everybody's like, oh, all right, Bledsoe's going back in. And Belichick was like, no, Tom's a starter. Tom's going to be this. And then he finally said Tom's a starter the rest of the way. Then, as you mentioned in the postseason, first quarter AFC Championship game in Pittsburgh, Brady rolls his ankle. Bledsoe comes in, wins the game. Wins the game as a quarterback.
And they still say.
So then they're like, all right, well, we got 2 weeks. Brady's got a bum ankle. Bledsoe just won the AFC Championship. Who's your quarter? And Bill Belichick was like, Tom Brady's my guy. And that takes so much onions.
Yeah, it makes
to be able to do that. And again, yeah, Tom Kraft doesn't. He may have a Super Bowl, may not. Who knows? Maybe Tom Kraft or Robert Kraft. Who's Tom Kraft? His brother who hates him or something. I don't know. Robert Kraft doesn't have the dynasty. He might have a Super Bowl. Like maybe he hired but it is crazy to think that, yeah, Robert Kraft is out there just calling Arthur Blank going, first off, Home Depot, great. Even though
I shop at Lowe's only, but Home Depot, great.
Even though I got beef with Home Depot right now.
So can I tell you a funny story?
But Home Depot, great idea, Arthur. But Bill Belichick, not a great idea. Not like it's not going to be fun. Just letting you know.
They definitely, there was some, and then to your
point.
point.
And because they're old rich guys, I bet they actually called on the phone.
Oh, yeah. And to your point earlier.
Probably a landline.
To your point earlier, Justin, you talked about the Bill Belichick disciples that failed. And in that great story at ESPN, they had a quote from Bill Belichick, and he's like, well, I would call, they asked him, like, why have none of your guys been successful anywhere? He goes, they're soldiers, not generals. I go, ooh, throwing out shady. I mean, it's like shades just being thrown. But let me tell you this, Justin.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
And this was probably 15 years ago. So, like, right about the time that I started to figure out, like, who Robert Kraft was, it took me, like, at least a year or two to realize, oh, he's not, like, the dude who created Kraft mac and cheese. I kid you not. I thought that was, like, Robert Kraft as in Kraft Foods. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, no, that wasn't him. He didn't make the awesome mac and cheese.
Can I tell you what I thought? Because there was Gillette Stadium. I thought he was the Gillette razor guy.
Yeah, I mean.
Turns out, not that either. Just savvy businessman in the Boston area. And then he got really smart and he bought up. Do you know what he did in Foxborough?
Well, like the old, yeah.
He bought up all the land around the stadium, so he owned the parking.
Yes.
So when they wanted to sell the team, they were like, all right, well, the stadium comes with it, right? And he's like, yeah, but I own the parking. So all these new people were coming in going like, I'm going to buy a stadium and a team, and I'm going to own the parking lot, right? And they're like, no, this guy Robert Kraft owns all the And so Kraft's like, or you can just sell the team to me.
Yeah.
Because I already own the parking lot. Man, things I wish I'd have known. Buy the parking lot.
Let me ask you this, Justin. If someone...
If I'd have known, out of the parking lot at Autzen Stadium, near there.
Where are you on regular old Kraft mac and cheese? If it was put in front of you...
Feel like it's a child's food.
Hot and fresh, would you take Because I'm a firm believer that macaroni's shelf life after it comes out of the pan is about 5 minutes. It has to be hot and gooey before it gets all gross and, warmed up, microwave. Disgusting.
Kraft mac and cheese is the mac and cheese I grew up on.
Yeah.
I've told the story multiple times about how I went to school and it was mac and cheese day, and I was very upset because I'm like, that is not mac and cheese, because it was made with real cheese and not the yellow powder. I was very upset, and I'm like, well, I thought it was mac and cheese day, and my mom was like, yeah, that's actually real mac and cheese. We do, because I grew up on Kraft mac and cheese. Then I think I was turned off because I had a roommate in college. I will not say his last name, but his first name was Luke. We called him Rock Bottom because he was a rock bottom human. And
why did you live with a rock bottom human?
I was assigned
a
dorm.
I've had a few bad ones,
we
too.
We had quads at where I went to school, and I was on the baseball team, so I got assigned. He was a left-handed pitcher, which they're the worst.
Oh, so he was a player, too.
He's rock bottom. Okay, he's a rock bottom player. Didn't make it to the season, failed, but the term that I lived with him, he made mac and cheese, ate it out of the pot. He also smoked a lot of weed. made it in the pot, ate it out of the pot, and then whatever the remnants was left, he just left, and he would sit there. And he would expect somebody else to clean it because he
gross.
is a garbage human being. And so I have so many unhappy memories
That's
of
fair.
mac and
I
cheese being
understand.
left
Someone
in
hurt
the
you,
pot.
Justin.
Kraft didn't do it. It was rock bottom Luke.
He's still around?
Nah, I think he's from Alaska.
Okay, fair.
So, but yeah, I feel like I feel like it's meant for children. But yeah, fresh out of the pot. I'd
Yeah,
probably
if someone
take
put
a
it
bite.
in front of you, would you have a bite?
I'd take a bite. Why not? All right. Speaking of hot, how about hot takes? Hot Take Friday, wrapping up hour number 2. That's next on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, it is time to wrap up the week. And, a lot of people like to look down their noses. They like to sit in judgment up in their ivory tower, up on their high horse, and throw a lot of shade, as the kids say. Kids still say throw shade?
Was there a time, Justin, when horses were different sizes, and the higher the horse you had, that's where that came from?
I think, like, the king got on the high horse, right? Like, I think of Braveheart. I would imagine, like, because when the king just was like, yeah, that's mine now. Hey, that's a nice castle you have. I'll take that. And, like, I'm the king. I would imagine that's probably where it came from. Like, the highest horse was where the king sat. Either way.
Seems like the highest room of the tallest tower kind of thing.
A lot of judgment coming for hot takes, right? A lot of people think, oh, that's just a hot take. It's just spouting off hot takes. Well, we respect hot takes. Hot takes take effort. Hot takes take some guts sometimes because you got to throw out there that maybe the status quo doesn't want to hear, but maybe they need to hear. We saved some of our spicy takes and a spicy topic because I'm going to throw a little bit of a Hot Take Friday curveball. But before we do, we need the intro. All right, you mentioned Kraft mac and cheese, and when I was growing up, if you would have asked 9-year-old Justin, what is the best mac and cheese, I would have said it's the yellowy orange stuff that I get at home, not the ooey gooey homemade or cafeteria made Kraft mac and cheese. But I had different cafeteria experience than Brenden had. We had actual cooks in our kitchen that, like, made the food each and every day. I think they don't do that anymore, I don't think. Either way, here's a hot take topic. Brenden, what's the best cheap food? Examples: mac and cheese, ramen.
You go to different countries, Justin, like in Europe, they consider Kraft mac and cheese dinner. Like, that's what it's called. It's like macaroni and cheese dinner. You go to, like, you'd be surprised how much in different places other than America.
Well, let's just live in America for a moment. In America, in our world here, what's the best of what we would consider, like, cheap foods? Is it mac and cheese? Is it ramen? Is it canned soup? I love canned soup.
I'm going to say that mac and cheese
is canned tomato soup better than homemade tomato soup?
It's a good question.
Because I'm a soup connoisseur. Now, we got the sun coming out. Soup season is over.
You got the grilled cheese with it?
Always.
Okay.
Yeah.
With Kraft singles?
How else do you make grilled cheese?
Exactly. Although, I'm not going to lie, there was a stretch, Justin, in my childhood when
how about that for best cheap food? Wonder Bread or store brand white bread, Kraft single. And then did you grow up with real butter or did you have margarine?
We had real butter, but Dad had his kick of I can't believe it's not butter for a while.
I think margarine got pushed out. So when I was growing up, the healthier version, because butter was bad, they made margarine, and then we found out, oh, that's full of chemicals. Probably don't need that. But margarine was the thing that we had.
That's something that I actually went back to as an adult. So I remember my teenage years, Justin, we did not have Kraft singles to make a grilled cheese. Like, Dad was like, it's Tillamook cheddar or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And was like, oh, that Kraft singles, bad cheese, processed.
It's not real cheese, it's processed.
And then
then he would spray, I can't believe it's not butter on there.
Right. And then you learn no other cheese is designed to melt for a grilled cheese. And I love Tillamook cheese. It don't belong on a grilled cheese. Just doesn't melt the same.
Well, it's kind of all right, grilled cheese hot take. Cheddar, not good.
No,
cheddar is not good on a grilled cheese. Cheddar is good on some things. Also, cheddar not good on a cheeseburger.
I prefer other cheeses. Yeah.
American cheese is the best on both.
You ride for pepper jack?
I ride for pepper jack.
I like pepper jack a lot. Yep. Okay.
I ride for pepper jack, but not on a. If I'm feeling a little spicy on a hot take day, like with the grilled cheese, maybe Munster is the best grilled cheese. If you're not going to go old school Kraft single,
I've never tried Munster.
Give it a shot.
Tried the cheese, but never in melted form on a grilled cheese.
And Munster is one of those, it sounds like it is an old world stinky cheese. It's not. It's actually very good. Munster is the best grilled cheese. If you were going to go with fancy cheeses, not cheese that rips out of a plastic sheet.
It's true.
But, so of the cheap foods, I'll give you Kraft mac and cheese. Stovetop Kraft mac and cheese. Not Easy Mac. Were you in the Easy Mac generation?
We were. It was around often.
Dude,
Can't tell you how many times I got sent to school with that in my lunch because all you need to do is throw it in the microwave.
you have microwaves at school?
Yeah.
Where did you have a microwave at school?
There was a microwave.
There was a microwave in the teacher's lounge. We were not allowed in there.
In middle school and high school, there was just a general one microwave
Really?
on one side of the cafeteria because that's where all the kids microwave their cup noodles. If it would, like, stuff like that. We had a microwave.
My mind is blown right now.
I mean, it was
What a different world you and I grew up in. No wonder we are so different.
Yeah.
Yet here we are, sitting here discussing stuff each and every day. My mind is blown that you had a communal
We did.
school microwave. We did not have that.
Yeah, I definitely. But
If
again,
we had a school microwave, I would have brought microwave popcorn for lunch every day. It'd have been the best.
It's true. I don't think I ever brought popcorn to school either. Probably should have now. But yeah, at the time, Justin, it was all about getting through the school food because I'm sure you were this way too. As soon as I had a car and could drive, it was off campus with the friends.
McDonald's, that's where I'm going. Or In-N-Out, because we had a place called In-N-Out, and then it got sued by the real In-N-Out, and they're like,
yeah,
you're the Winston Drive-In now, and they were like, we're going to McDonald's. Anyways, but In-N-Out it was hot in these streets for a time, the In-N-Out at Winston. All right, so let me give you the options. Best cheap, all right, cheap grilled cheese. Not upgraded grilled cheese. I'm talking white bread and Kraft Singles grilled cheese. Mac and cheese. Kraft. Or Great Western Family brand, because we're talking cheap food. Western Family brand, but Kraft. Ramen noodles, canned tomato soup. What's the best of the cheap foods?
I'm going to ride for mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese is good.
And I'm going to tell you why. Because I don't know if there's a lot of nutritional gain in top ramen other than the broth.
And well, none of them have any nutritional gain.
Well,
dare I say it?
I will push
You want to
back
believe it?
and say that I believe, let's see, Kraft probably has something like 3 grams of protein. So that's probably something I'm willing to bet there's probably nothing but broth and.
So good.
But tomato soup is close. It's tough, but I will go for mac and cheese.
I'm gonna ride with the grilled cheese. I'm gonna ride with the cheap old grilled cheese. All right, we have got a whole hour left on the big show. Cam Miller joins us. RCM Mailbag. A lot of stuff coming up next. 620 Rip City Radio. It is 8 a.m. on a Friday morning. Justin Myers with you. 2 games in the play-in tournament tonight in the NBA. 8th seed on the line for both. We'll start in the East. The Bulls will be facing the Miami Heat. Miami Heat will be without Jimmy Butler, not only for the game tonight, but if the Heat do pull off the win, Jimmy Butler likely not available for the first round against the Boston Celtics. Pelicans will be without Zion Williamson as they will host the Sacramento Kings. Winner of that will face Oklahoma City in the first round. We are 6 days away from round 1 of the NFL draft. Friend of the program, Cam Mellor from the College Football Network, also covers the NFL draft, is going to be joining us in 20 minutes. We have got the RCM mailbag. NBA viewership numbers are down. Simple answer with a very complex solution. Hour number 3 of RCM starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio. Hey, welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. As I mentioned in the update, Cam Mellor is going to be joining us in 20 minutes. Got some movement going on with the not the top of the draft. It's always intriguing when Vegas starts shifting around the odds for some of the draft selections. Because Caleb Williams is clearly going to go number 1. He's going to the Bears. That's a done deal. It seemed as though that Jaden Daniels is going to be going to the Commanders, sitting at number 2 overall. But, Brenden, I don't know if you saw this, but I think the numbers have now, I don't know if they've flipped or if they've essentially gotten identical. Drake May moving up the Vegas odds. Now, Drake May was kind of the guy that was assumed to be that kind of number 2 overall spot. I remember when Drake May played against Oregon in the Holiday Bowl, and it was like a very big deal. Like, this guy might be the number 1 overall pick. And then Caleb Williams won the Heisman. Well, I guess he won the Heisman that year. And then Jaden Daniels kind of, I don't know if he came out of nowhere because fans on the West Coast, we all knew Jaden Daniels from Arizona State, but he then had an unbelievable
He had a pretty big
year.
marquee win. Kind of showed me what he could do as an 18-year-old.
What? Why? Why do you do this to me on a Friday?
Hey, you brought him up, man. You brought him up. And you're like, well, I mean, that was his coming out party, was it not?
I don't know why you do this to me on a Friday, Brenden. The sun is shining. We're drinking fancy coffees. I don't. Why would you bring up a football game from 2019? That's pre-COVID.
Because you're talking about Jaden Daniels.
We don't even play for that team anymore, Brenden. Why are you doing
I
it?
knew after that
Why are
game.
you bringing this up to me?
I knew after that game he was going to be a star.
Did you really think that added value to the discussion, or did you want to get a rise out of me?
Added value to the discussion wholeheartedly.
I don't believe you.
I'll be here all day.
You are going to be here all day.
I'll leave it with that. It's like the classic, yep, I'll be here all day.
I'll be here all day.
Yeah,
You actually will be here all day.
It was not negative at all in the sense of like a lot of people, myself included, remember that game and being
Brenden,
like,
it was 4th down. It was 4th down. Why are we running a soft zone?
That dude's ability to throw deep as a freshman. I'm like, hey, he's got it.
Who was the receiver? He's like a good receiver, too. I think he's an
Ayuk. Yeah,
Brandon
turns
Ayuk?
out he's pretty good, too.
Brandon Ayuk is there.
Yeah, turns out
That was in the Super Bowl.
he's pretty good, too. Really, really good. So, how did Herm not win with that talent? I'll leave it at that. Yeah, we already know the answer to that, but
Yeah.
I'm just going to,
Because,
come on.
same reason Deion Sanders isn't going to win. It's because these guys come in and they think they can run a college program like an NFL program, and they're like, I know everything. I have all this experience. I played in the league. I got a gold jacket I didn't pay for, Coach Prime says. And Herm Edwards is like, I know how to get guys to the NFL. Turns out, you got to do a little bit more. That's why college coaches like Nick Saban are unbelievably skilled. Because you have to be able to know football, but you also have to be able to know people. And, we talked about Bill Belichick back in Make or Miss, right? Bill Belichick, unbelievable football guy. People pleaser? No. Could you imagine if Bill Belichick had to recruit? Like,
It would not work.
yeah. And Herm Edwards learned that the hard way, that like you have to be able to recruit also within the rules, and the rules you may seem silly, but they're the rules. And I think Deion Sanders is ultimately going to learn this.
Could be the same thing where we look back at some talent at Colorado and be like, ooh, man, how did they not win more?
I think we all know that answer is because they got a coach who's willing to go out on the road to promote a book, but is not willing to go out on the road to recruit football players, figuring that just his celebrity, a celebrity, by the way, that peaked 1998,
How long do you think the kids...
that celebrity is going to be able to just pull in recruits?
How long do you think the kids see him as relevant? Because obviously they can jump on YouTube and look him up, but no kid now remembers Coach Prime. Either playing.
As a player, yeah.
No, like, I don't. I'm 28 and I don't remember him playing.
Yeah.
So, like you said, he's got that clout, but, like, how long do you think it'll last if they don't win? A year?
Well, if they don't win, it's not going to last at all, and we'll see what happens once he is done trying to use a college football program as a springboard to put his child into the NFL, which is what this whole thing seemingly has become. Also, to give his other children jobs. They are the Kardashians of the college football world. We'll see how long Colorado put up with, hey, coach, you're not recruiting. Nah, people come to me. I don't go to them. It's like, you won 4 games last year. Yeah. But we coming. Like, coach, real quick, you lost 11 guys in the transfer portal. Spring transfer portal. Yeah. Because all the good ones are coming to me. Are you going out there and meeting them? No. They come to me. I can't go out there. I'm Coach Prime. Weren't you just out on a book tour, though? Yeah, I was. I went on a podcast, talked about my kid and our best player, and talked about nobody else on our team. Do you think maybe some of those players might resent that? I don't care. I'm Coach Prime. You can't get me talking about Deion.
I just think it's going to be fascinating that if any of the dudes that left, again, I know the 3 that are at Oregon State, or, and there were many others, Justin, who he said, get out, right, at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious to see if any of those guys have a decent year, because it'd be kind of funny if they did.
I'm curious to see what happens in college, because in the NFL, you can run a team with that kind of ruthlessness attitude, which is you are not productive anymore. I'm sorry, you're cut. It's life. NFL is not for long. You guys all know that coming in. That's the deal, right? And in the NFL, very rarely, it sometimes happens, but very rarely, once you cease to become productive, do you then become productive again? Do you know what I mean? It's very rare. It happens every once in a while. It's going to happen with Russell Wilson. But very rarely.
You are obsessed.
I'm trying to talk myself into it because I know it's going to be an unmitigated disaster.
Or it works and you look here and every Monday morning, you come in here with a giant smile and go, hey, Brenden, you catch Russ?
Team 3, baby.
You catch Russ? I mean,
are you on?
I'm not going to say.
Are you on Team 3?
I'm not going to say it's impossible because that's just
Team
silly.
3.
That's just silly to say things are impossible, and Mike Tomlin's really good.
But
we'll see.
Kind of getting to what you're talking about with Herm Edwards, and I think with Deion Sanders, it's going to ultimately happen, is in the NFL, you can cut players, and everybody in the NFL knows the deal, right? They signed up for it. It is part of the culture of the NFL is that once you cease to become productive, it's not show friends, it's show business, and once you are done, you're cut, you're gone. And everybody knows that, right? Well, in college, you're still dealing with kids. You're still dealing with kids who, might ultimately get better. Because unlike in the NFL, when usually you cease to become productive or you just are not at the level that they need you to be, you usually don't get back there. Other than maybe a quarterback or two, usually you don't develop over 3-4 years to become an all-pro. Usually you see signs of it early on. In college, that is the case. We talked about it with Brentley Wiseman yesterday. How many quarterbacks are we talking about in this draft? And I know you like to, throw a couple of Jaden Daniels 2019 Arizona State against Oregon shots at me, and I appreciate the banter. But Brenden, I don't know if there was anybody that thought that Jaden Daniels was going to be the number 2 overall quarterback. I know he had flashes as a freshman, but then like COVID came, sophomore year came, and I don't know if anybody had him winning the Heisman and going number 2 overall. Certainly nobody had Bo Nix sitting alongside him at the Heisman Trophy presentation, and certainly nobody had Michael Penix Jr. sitting alongside of him. Could you imagine if I'd have came in 2020 before the big awful came into our lives and been like, hey, here's my take. In about 4 years, Jaden Daniels is going to win the Heisman, and he's going to beat out Michael Penix. Who? The guy at Indiana. And is going to beat out Bo Nix. The guy from Auburn? Yeah. Because players develop in college football.
And I just think it's
and I don't think you can just do this whole Deion Sanders last year. Oh, you just got to cut all linemen and find new linemen. It's like, or crazy thought, maybe you coach them up. I don't know.
I mean, and
maybe you take what you got and coach them up because that's how you build things. Now, I don't know if that's going to change because of transfer portal and NIL, which is making it more and more like the NFL every single day. And I understand that the world is changing, but I don't think you can work with the ruthlessness that you do in the NFL because college, you also have to deal with emotion. NFL players know that my guy sitting next to me, who I like, if he gets cut, that stinks, but that's part of the biz. Your buddy who you came in with as a recruit, who you were maybe roommates with your freshman year, and college coach comes in and says, yeah, you're not part of this team, you are cut. That player's friend is going to resent you. That resentment's going to grow in the locker room if you're not winning. That's the stuff that nobody talks about. NFL, you don't have to deal with it because it's part of the industry. It's not part of college football because you're dealing with kids.
I would say this, Justin, because you said if I told you then, I'd look at you and go, well, how about that? 3 guys from the Pac-12 in the Heisman finalists.
Yeah,
Conference must be doing great, right? Yeah, that's what I would have told you back then. Conference must be doing great, man. We came out of playing a 6-game COVID schedule because we were frightened of myocarditis, which you never heard about again. Funny how that works, Justin.
We're not doctors, all right? We're not doctors, Brenden.
I remember that well. Like, oh, yeah, Pac-12, myocarditis. And
we're not doctors.
I don't think we heard any confirmed
Got to play in November. There's no myocarditis in November.
Didn't bother the SEC one bit. But, yes, I would have told you the Pac-12's got to be doing great.
Yeah, thriving. That network must be just through
making
the roof.
money hand over fist.
All right,
baby.
we're going to talk to Cam Mellor coming up in a bit. Before we do that, I do want to tell you about DeBella. That's right. Roofing, siding, windows, they're your bath experts as well. DeBella is who you need to call for any home upgrades because, well, how about no payments until 2025? That's right. That's on approved credit, but no payments until 2025. And when you upgrade your roofing, maybe even with solar shingles, when you upgrade your windows, when you upgrade to energy efficiency with your bathroom, you are saving money on your energy bill the entire time while you're not paying them anything until 2025. You're just raking in all the savings. Plus, excellent customer service that has been award-winning, accolades from Angie's List and Home Advisor. Plus, their customers rave about them as well. Go check on Google right now. 15,000 plus 5-star reviews for DeBella. Contact them for a no-obligation, convenient appointment today for your roofing, windows, siding, or bath needs. Proud supporter of Operation Homefront. The only answer is DeBella. All right, very excited to welcome in our next guest. He is the executive director of the College Football Network, also deputy editor of NFL Scouting at the Pro Football Network, friend of the program. And what a time to have him on because, man, the month of April between the draft that is coming up next week and the transfer portal going on right now, it is hot in these football streets. So very excited to have Cam Mellor back on the big show. Good morning, Cam. How we doing?
I'm great. You know, the sleep is usually optional, but not the month of April. Sleep is it's been suboptimal for people to get any sort of sleep. Portal, draft, but it's all fun. This is what we live for, right? Next week is Christmas.
I mean, it is interesting because the NFL kind of has always had the month of April in the quote-unquote off-season. I know it's the talent evaluation part, but in the quote-unquote the off-season, the NFL's kind of always had the month of April because of the draft. But, man, with the spring transfer portal and with, big-name players moving around all over the place and trying to keep a hold of everything in college football, it is fascinating how both have kind of taken over. I mean, I don't know if you heard, Cam, probably not because you're in your bunker. NBA playoffs start this weekend, and all I care about is quarterback movement.
That's all I care about. I don't quite understand the new format, or correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe that's how dark I am about the NBA, but the new play-in format. I grew up an Orlando Magic fan, so obviously the playoffs were never a thing for me. It was never a moment we had in time. So, yeah, no, NBA playoffs, I did see it. It is interesting what sports betting has done. It makes you a little bit more cognizant of every other sport that's going on.
Magic are hot, though, man. You got Banchero. Magic are back. Feels like 93 again, Cam. All right, let's
it's nice. I will say my brothers maybe watch a little bit more than I usually would have watched recently this season. So.
All right, let's talk some draft first, and then I do want to talk some transfer portal stuff as well. But obviously, the theme of this draft, especially in the first round, is quarterbacks, right? It's always quarterbacks each and every year, but it seems to be obviously much more prominent this year. We've been talking about it a ton because obviously out west with Bo Nix and Michael Penix in the mix, and Jaden Daniels, who was a West Coast quarterback before he went to LSU. Caleb Williams is going to be going number one. It seems like right now, Cam, there's a lot of movement in the sports books about is Drake May moving up? Is J.J. McCarthy moving up? If you look at it and had to guess right now 6 days out, how do you see the quarterback situation in the first round? Is there going to be 5 guys drafted in the first round?
You know, I definitely could see 5 for sort of that lock.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that proverbial or that necessary 5th year with a quarterback. It takes sort of positional importance into factor, obviously. So, yeah, does Penix, does Nix get in? Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if 6 do go off the board with both of those at the back end of round 1. But to me, we finally reached a cycle in April where rumors are gone out the door. People finally that haven't watched tape have finally watched enough tape that they're able to get the full picture. You never have a full picture of a draft prospect, I guess. So you get enough of the puzzle pieces to put together. That's where we saw, I think, the rush to get to Jaden Daniels. People saw the gaudy stats, the movement he did, but then also once you watch enough tape, you see some of the elements to his game that aren't quite there. And then you have Drake May, who has been and should have been number 2 the entire time behind Caleb Williams, if not 1A, 1B between the two of them. So to me, I think we're getting back into that whole picture. You have everything, and to me, Drake May getting back into 2, he should have never left. He never left off my board.
So let's take Caleb Williams out of this real quick. And when you kind of look at this jumble there in the middle between Drake May, Jaden Daniels, and J.J. McCarthy, who's continued to move up, from an NFL scouting perspective, because I have said this multiple times, Cam, I love college football. I watch it as a fan. I would be a terrible evaluator because I get emotional both positively and negatively about these guys. But from an NFL perspective, about those 3 guys specifically, kind of what is it in terms of transitioning for those guys heading into the NFL?
Yeah, I'm always a college football guy first as well, so I have tried to hone my craft. There's a reason I'm a director of the college site, just an editor on the NFL side, but it is very unique how you can have somebody like Jaden Daniels, put up the gaudy numbers he did for 2 straight seasons and then still have holes in his game for the next level. And I think that's what you have to find. You have to find those translatable skills, what you look for in an NFL quarterback versus just a good college football quarterback. And Daniels is, I guess, that prime example. Does he have enough pocket creation capacity? Does he have enough awareness and a mobility to rebuild pockets? He's not going to be the most athletic guy on the field anymore than he just was. at LSU for the past 2 seasons. And so it's, to me, what separates each of those players is that you have Drake May, who might have the most accurate arm when he's standing tall in a pocket. So you have May, that translates immediately. Daniels does have that creation capacity. Maybe not quite like Bryce Young had last year, not like Caleb Williams has this year. But he's also got that ability to break, contain, and he can rebuild pockets and get back to his throwing motions. To me, McCarthy is the biggest wild card.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen some amazing shots that he threw, a couple of needle threaders and some zone beaters with dropping safeties and quarterbacks. And you've also got a game against Bowling Green that I can't get over. The first half against Bowling Green, that if he was not J.J. McCarthy, he would have been benched because he threw 3 first half interceptions that should have been avoided. Maybe trusting his arm too much, not getting enough chances to throw the ball, but you're banking on the tangibles more with McCarthy than anybody else in the class.
Well, and that's the other thing, and this is, why I would be a terrible evaluator, because you mentioned that game against Bowling Green is a tough one to get over. I continue to reference, and I know it was a weird time because Jim Harbaugh was not on the sideline, may or may not have been on the team bus with the team chaplain going back and forth, but regardless, I still can't get over, Cam, that game against Penn State. Michigan's without their head coach. They're playing a top 10 team in Penn State on the road, and I realize they're running it down their throats, but the fact that you've got a guy who's supposedly going to be a top 5 NFL draft pick, and you don't have him throw a pass in the second half, that's the thing with J.J. McCarthy I have a tough time getting over, is just how do you have somebody who's that capable of being an NFL player not throw a pass in the second half of a Big Ten football game?
It's, in the moment, that Sunday after the game happened, it was like, wow, they didn't have to do anything. But then, when you're putting the piece of the puzzle, why didn't they trust J.J. McCarthy to throw one pass, a swing pass? You want to keep the clock moving and you want to grind the game out and you want to feature Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, that's fine. Throw up some swing passes, change it up a little bit. It is a little confounding, a little baffling, and I think that right there, it sets itself up to, if the coaching staff didn't trust him there in those situations, even early on in the third quarter, that's definitely, you want to throw the ball to me. If they didn't trust him, so to speak, there, then he's gonna have maybe a more arduous journey to get the buy-in from a coaching staff, unless they've already fallen in love with him now, which I'd find hard to believe.
Cam Miller from the College Football Network, also deputy editor of NFL Scouting at the Pro Football Network, joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, I've stalled enough. Let's talk some Bo Nix. Again, talking about being emotional. I cannot be held responsible because I love Bo Nix. I've watched him. I've watched every snap that he has played here in Oregon, and to see his career go from Auburn versus Oregon. We had this conversation yesterday, Cam. What is the analysis on Bo Nix if, let's just say, AI went and destroyed all the Auburn film, and we did not have any frame of reference of Bo Nix ever playing at Auburn, and you only had the 2 years of Bo Nix at Oregon? Would there be a different evaluation, a different perspective of Bo Nix?
A little bit,
Okay.
I think we're not. I think you set the line at 5.5 quarterbacks in the first round. Then at that point, because you can almost guarantee he's in that first round conversation. Right now, you do have the multiple years of iffy film and footage and performances, yes, in the SEC, but the NFL is obviously going to be a little bit more difficult than some of the defenses in the Pac-12 were this past 2 seasons for him there. But to me, the corner he turned, his maturity, it's like something flipped, and whether that was the move to Eugene away from the pressure, I don't know what it was. Clearly, there was a reason he was such a sought-after recruit as a high school student, as a junior and senior, and the reason he'd been to an SEC team and started as the youngest true freshman ever. There is what he has been, what he brings to the table is, I would say it's an incredible athlete. I don't think he gets enough credit for how as good of an athlete as he is. And I think that the ability for him to keep his eyes downfield, he can make those snap decisions that are more often than not the right decision. And yeah, he doesn't have maybe the most elite arm in terms of arm, strength, but I would say his arm talent is up there at the top, because he's got it within the short, intermediate, and even 20, 25 yards down the field. This is a guy who's going to put the ball in windows that not many quarterbacks can. So to me, Bo Nix is absolutely in that first round discussion. And if I'm a GM, I'm taking him in the first round.
All right, getting off of quarterbacks for the moment. Obviously, the trendy position in the NFL right now is tight end, right? Whoever is working the tight end PR machine, which I think is Greg Olson, and George Kittle and Travis Kelce dating Taylor Swift helps as well. But Tight ends are the hot new thing. Everybody in the NFL is kind of looking for the next George Kittle or Travis Kelce. And so now we got Brock Bowers. And we've seen these trends happen before, Cam, in the league, right? Where running backs were maybe a bit overvalued, and then you see receivers being overvalued. Are we in that position right now yet with tight ends and a guy like Brock Bowers? Is he going to be kind of moving up because of what other great tight ends are doing? Or is this the position of the future, and teams now, when they have needs for weapons on the offensive side, are going to be looking at big-time tight ends like Brock Bowers?
Yeah, a lot to unpack, I think, in the argument of tight ends here. It's a very unique position group, this draft, but ultimately as what we see in the NFL right now. Yes, everybody wants George Kittle. Everybody wants a Travis Kelce. You wanted Kyle Pitts to be that as well, right?
Yeah.
And I think so. We're going to have some recency bias that says do not draft a tight end in the top 10 because look what happened to Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts had Desmond Ridder throwing him this past season. Let's give him a break, I think, at this point going forward. To me, Brock Bowers is absolutely worthy of a top 10 pick, and if he's not there in the top 10, somebody's getting potentially the steal of the draft. A guy who legitimate 4.5, 4.4 playing speed, I'd say, a little bit faster than whatever he was going to run in a straight line in the 40 because when he's got pads on, he's as big, if not bigger than everybody else, and then did not get the credit deserved for his blocking ability. Brock Bowers is going to be in that vein of a George Kittle, Travis Kelce, go back to Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates as well. Maybe I date myself there if I went back even further, so I'll stop there. But I think we're going to overvalue everybody except for, I think he breaks the mold. Brock Bowers breaks the mold. Probably would be a top 5 pick if it weren't for the recency bias because of Kyle Pitts.
Cam Miller from the College Football Network and from the Pro Football Network joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Cam, I want to shift gears a little bit because we are also in transfer portal season, and I love transfer portal season from the standpoint of the fan, which is any player that leaves didn't want him anyways, wasn't really living up to it. There's a reason why he left. Every player coming in is a big-time gain. So I love it from that. But the chaos that is going on in college football is getting a little bit nuts. Let's start with maybe the most chaotic football program in all of college football, the Colorado Buffaloes. What's going on in Boulder? Deion's not recruiting because he can't recruit at high schools, but he can go on book tours. His kids are on Instagram. They got 11 guys out, but none of those were starters. Can you, in the very unfair, Cam, in about 2 minutes, make heads or tails of what's going on with Deion, or Coach Prime, in year 2?
I think I can make heads, but then at the same argument, I could probably make tails as well. It's you hit the nail on the head, though. He can't recruit at the high school level. That's the foundation of a good coach. Not saying Deion might not eventually be a good coach or he's not good with the talent he has. He's done some good things, but I think we saw what happened when you build a proverbial college football all-star team of rejects at this point. Those were players that they flashed a couple of Bentleys or Ferraris or whatever the cars were on the field at Folsom, and they fit. I look at a guy like Alton McCaskill from Houston who came in last year and is now out of the program. Whatever the promises were, clearly they didn't uphold their end of the bargain. They got Dylan Edwards and they played this true freshman, and now he's gone. He's in the portal. So it's flashy. You have to be. It's a new age of college football coach. Nick Saban's out. It's not quite the Deion Sanders bring in the portal players and make them good immediately. You have to still have that foundation, that building block. The core of your roster is still going to have to be players that you've not only recruited but spent time developing to buy into your system, to start playing the way that you want them to play, learn your offense, learn your defense, and learn your special teams. And let's face it, by building and recruiting through the portal, you're not going to be able to do that. And I think we're seeing in the second year, the second spring cycle for him, this mass exodus. It's going to be a summer thing where we continue, right, where are the Colorado players now?
Cam Miller from the College Football Network joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. One last thing before we let you go, Cam. Really appreciate your time because obviously it is a very busy time for you. I am not naive enough to think that this could ultimately happen, but it is still a fun discussion, and that is the leaks coming from College Sports Tomorrow, which I've also thought was interesting, that it feels like a seminar we all have to sit through, right? College Sports Tomorrow. But this group with with Gordon Gee and a handful of other prominent people in the football world going around with the quote-unquote Super League, the 80-team Super League with 7 protected teams. I know that this is likely not going to happen because of the TV networks and the Big Ten and the SEC, but eventually when everything kind of comes around, do you see some form of smaller divisions, even though they're conferences, and kind of like college football was in 1992, ultimately heading in that direction, or is this kind of a pipe dream?
I think it's a little bit of. I think
Okay.
the pipe dream stops when you recognize and you learn quickly that ESPN signed a 12-year deal with the college football playoff. There's no way they're backing out on those rights and the billions of dollars that is spent. It will be made from that as well through this. So if you find a way to do a Super League that still confines inside of that college football playoff, it still gives those conference naming rights. I mean, FSU can't get out of the ACC because of some naming rights here at this point. So if you can do it within the confines of what is already built and what has already had a lot of money, I think what happens is maybe we stop seeing those home and home games in 2038 that we're scheduling this far out in advance because they're not going to come. I think that would be the first building block. To me, it is a pipe dream right now. I will say college football today, though, right now, it feels like what's next. We haven't even had a 12-team season for the college football playoff, and we're already looking to change it to 14. So maybe be satisfied with what you got in college football because it's constant change, apparently.
Cam Mellor, you can follow him on Twitter at Cam Mellor. You can read his stuff at the College Football Network at CFN365. And, of course, NFL Scouting at PFN365, the Pro Football Network. Hey, Cam, thank you so much for your time. Have a terrific weekend. Enjoy the draft. Enjoy transfer portal season as well. Look forward to talking to you again soon.
You as well, Brenden. Thanks so much for having me.
There you go. Cam Mellor. You know, the thing with the tight ends is, he brought up a really good point with Kyle Pitts, right? That Kyle Pitts was kind of supposed to be the next Travis Kelce and the next George Kittle and who else is in the mix? I mean, those are the two, TJ Hawkinson, right? Guys like that. Turns out those guys are like really special, but where are you on Brock Bowers? I love it, which probably means NFL bust coming your way, but it seems to me like he kind of fits the mold of NFL off. Like, talk about the right guy at the right time is a dynamic playmaking tight end in an era where offenses and offensive coordinators seem to be falling in love with dynamic playmaking tight ends. You know what I mean?
It's definitely an interesting spot because I do think he's going to be really good. Obviously he had his year cut short this year. Watched him quite a bit last year, Justin, and he's
took over games at the tight end spot in college.
Now I want to go back and look because you go back to his college career. Kyle Pitts had back-to-back seasons of 700 yards or more, and then that last year, almost 812 touchdowns. So that was really the reason why he got drafted, right? So let's look at Brock Bowers, wherever he's projected at the moment. 10th overall is what they got him right now. It's exactly the same.
700 yards, 6 TDs.
So maybe a little bit better the year before. He played in a few more games this year than I thought. I thought it was a little bit less. But there could be a case, but I think Brock Bowers is going to be really good.
I do too.
Who knows, right? You never know. There have been really good tight ends in college. I think about like how and sometimes it's foot speed, right? It's things you don't necessarily know, right? So I think of like when Washington went to the college football playoff in 2016. I'm trying to remember who Drew Sample was their tight end. Jake Browning's like go-to guy. Threw the ball to him like every play.
I think he scored like 4 touchdowns against Oregon.
See, there you go. And he got drafted, and everyone's like,
they scored like 10 touchdowns that day. So, I mean, I guess that wasn't very many.
Well,
they scored like 10 touchdowns in one game.
Hey, you know what? Game gave us Justin Herbert, though. So, as it turned out, Oregon, Washington went down again. Oregon went up again. Then they went like, you guys go up and down with each other, man, I swear. But everyone's like, this Drew Sample guy's be really good, and he's kind of turned out to be just another tight end at the next level.
Yeah.
So, I do think it's very difficult to, again, Justin, let's go back and look. Just for the sake of kicks and giggles, as they say.
Yes.
Travis
we didn't say
Kelce.
kicks.
Travis Kelce, now granted, he had a suspended year. Cincinnati was kind of living his...
Yeah, he got the weed.
He
was busted for weed, which is funny now in 2024 to think that Travis Kelce was nearly kicked off of his college team.
For for something
for getting busted for weed.
something that's within a 5-mile radius of you and I.
Yeah, I don't know what the
give or
rules are.
take.
I don't know what the rules are of the great state of Ohio.
I'm not sure either. But to that point, Justin, his senior year at Cincinnati, 700 receiving yards, 8 touchdowns. So that's kind of like the mark, right? But you don't know. I mean, Travis Kelce was, a third-round pick. And, no one knew what he was going to become. So I think you kind of get into a dangerous spot when you start looking for the next guy.
Well, and that's why I brought it up, because, I mean, NFL is the copycat league of all copycat leagues. And it's like, oh, we got Travis Kelce and George Kittle's like, yeah, those guys are unicorns. They're kind of special. All right. Speaking of kind of special, RCM mailbag? Next, 620, Rip City Radio. All right, it is time to wrap up the big show. Get ready to attack the weekend. You got big weekend plans? I know you're going to Corvallis tomorrow, right?
Yeah, not really. Kind of a quiet weekend.
All right.
Yeah, just kind of going. Like I said, got coming back here. Catch me on Rip City Drive
That's
tonight.
right. You're going to be hanging out with the boys this afternoon, pulling double duty.
Yeah, so doing that. Then got the spring game tomorrow. And then
Do you think they will also talk about the Kraft mac and cheese versus grilled cheese
I doubt it.
like we did?
Yeah, I doubt it. I'll probably be more of a...
We did have a very interesting conversation because I don't know if you saw who's the is it Trent Baalke, the GM of the Panthers?
Sounds
I think it's Trent
right.
Baalke. Did you see what happened to Trent Baalke at
No.
I want to make sure.
Oh, yeah. Jaguars, excuse me.
Jacksonville Jaguars. Sorry.
Yes.
Oh, I keep saying the Carolina Panthers. Jacksonville Jaguars.
He was the one that got fired in San Francisco and had the falling out with Harbaugh. He was pretty famous.
Yeah, well, he's even more famous now because he farted in the middle of a press conference loudly and didn't even flinch. Just ripped one and went right through it. Like, whoop. So, yeah, we had a fun conversation yesterday afternoon with like where does that fall in the milestone moments of a relationship?
Pretty bad.
It's pretty bad. But you know what I mean? When you have a relationship, right? There are milestone moments, Brenden. There's first date. There's first kiss. There's the first I love you, right? And then if you're lucky enough like me, there's the engagement. There's the wedding. You know what we don't give enough respect to? First fart. When you get to a point with your significant other where you can just rip one and like it's not a big what a time. What a time of comfort. It really is. It is I think it's as big as the first I love you. When you can comfortably fart in front of each other.
Yeah.
I mean, it's saying love without saying it. You know, it's like, yeah. So that's what we talked about yesterday. You might get some more of that. I bet he plays that clip. Chad was playing the clip the entire time. He's obsessed with it. He's obsessed with farts. Chad doing on this particular show, he is obsessed with farts.
So yeah, no, that'll be an interesting afternoon. But yeah, other than that, just kind of keeping it lazy this weekend.
Right.
Definitely doing nothing on Sunday, so that'll be fun just to relax.
Got a concert on Saturday night.
It's gonna be fun.
Gonna try to hang out with the kids. We'll see how long I last. But yeah, Cameron Marlowe, up and comer. Cameron
Can't say
Marlowe,
I'm familiar. Yeah,
really good, really good. Cameron Marlowe at Crystal Ballroom on Saturday. If you're out there,
the Crystal
Give
is
me-
solid. I do like
give me
the
a
Crystal.
little. Can I tell? Like,
Saw Dame there.
Did you know?
Like one of the 3 concerts he's ever done back when he was still essentially a nobody to anybody that wasn't in Portland. He and CJ McCollum and some other dudes showed up. It was fun, man.
You have got to be really good for me to go to the Crystal Ballroom to see you because I'll tell you, I'm at that age now where I want a chair. I want a chair.
It gets hot in the Crystal, man.
It's a little warm. Yeah, luckily it's still April, so it might not be too hot up there. But it's more than that. It's the standing, because I'm old and I don't mind standing at a concert. But you know, when there's natural breaks, like, hey, we're gonna slow it down for the next couple songs. I kind of want to sit down, but there's no sitting.
Oh,
down.
So
you have to really be. And
you do.
I'm a big fan. Wife's a huge fan.
There you go.
So I
Okay.
got a little date night.
Nice.
See Cameron Marlowe tomorrow.
Nice.
But yeah, Crystal Ballroom.
I distinctly
It
remember.
really makes you work for it.
Yeah,
Because you got to stand the whole time.
it's funny. I was actually cleaning out some stuff not too long ago, and I found the ticket stub to that concert back in 2015. I showed my brother. I'm like, look at this. And to Justin's point, it was July. It was very hot.
Yeah.
And I just remember being in the mosh pit of Blazers / Damian Lillard rap fans, if you want to call them Damian Lillard rap fans, and getting out at the end. Just remember being like, water, I was dying, and that was my introduction. Oh yeah, here's a real mosh pit in an old building where there's no ventilation.
Yep. And the floor kind of moves along
Yeah, it
with
does.
you.
It bounces, baby.
All right, let's get one mailbag question in.
All right, Justin, we're gonna get your take on seafood, specifically a very popular chain, Red Lobster.
Mhm.
Have you ever been?
I have.
Do you enjoy going at all?
Here's the thing about Red Lobster. Whenever your pre-meal item is the most popular thing, I don't know if that's good for your brand. The Cheddar Bay biscuits are the best things at Red Lobster. They are. And by the time you get to the Cheddar Bay biscuits, which come out on the table first, everything else goes downhill from there. And I think that's it's a bit of a problem.
I bring this up.
Well, because here's what I don't mind. I am not too good for a chain restaurant. I'm not. But if I'm going to go to a chain restaurant, your boy's going to Red Robin. I'm going to go to Red Robin before I would go to Red Lobster.
The whole point in this is I'm just curious if it pops up on your radar as like an icon or like eh. Apparently, per yesterday,
There are some people that ride for the lobster.
they
ride.
They are considering approaching Chapter 11.
Oh, no.
BK. Bankruptcy. So again,
If they charged you for the Cheddar Bay biscuits like a $3 charge instead of giving it to you for free, they might pull themselves out.
I doubt it's gonna go away.
Because that's what everybody wants.
But like, I don't know. Do you think like we'd miss anything as a culture to have Red Robin?
No,
Red
Red
Lobster.
Robin's not going anywhere.
Red Lobster gone, hypothetically.
I mean, I would be all right. But, you know,
that's what I'm getting at
I don't
here.
like it when, people lose jobs and, things like that. There's always a side effect here. But if I'm going to go to a chain restaurant, I'm going to Red Robin. I'm going to go. How long does Olive Garden have, you think?
a ways.
You think so?
I think they've got a good the
Like
thing
Red
with-
Robin's the best, right? Of the chain restaurants, right? Red Robin is the best. I'm talking not fast casual, not fast food, but you go down, you sit down, you order with the waiter or waitress.
Red Robin's up there.
Red Robin's the best.
I ride for Old Spaghetti Factory, as you know.
But that's not really a nation. I'm talking nationwide chains. You got Red Robin, you got Applebee's, you got Olive Garden, you've got the Lobster. In 40 seconds, who's your top
45
three?
restaurants in 14 states in Japan, Justin, for Old Spaghetti Factory.
But I'm
I push back.
coast to coast,
And
coast.
I'm going to throw in Cheesecake Factory.
No, forgot about Cheesecake Factory.
And I'm going to ride for Cheesecake Factory. I love that place.
Cheesecake Factory versus Red Robin would
Best
be
menu I've ever seen.
boy,
18
that's
pages.
Boy, that's a 1 versus 2 matchup if I ever heard. That's like you put that on an October slate. Red Robin versus Cheesecake Factory. Oh boy, unlimited fries versus unlimited menu. Boy, we have got a clash of the Titans. We may talk about that on Monday. Probably won't. Probably talk about basketball. We got playoff action and all of that. Hey, enjoy the weekend, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks to Cam Meller for joining us earlier in the big show. Thanks to super producer Brenden. Have a terrific weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday, 6:20, Rip City Radio.